If you're a veteran or active duty service member thinking about buying a home with your VA loan, especially here in the Kansas City area, there are a few things I wish every VA buyer knew before they started the process. Because while the VA loan is one of the best benefits we've earned, it's also one of the most misunderstood. I've been in real estate full-time for over 10 years, I've been originating mortgages for over 2 years, and I'm a 21-year Air Force veteran. So I've seen just about every version of the VA home buying experience, the good, the bad, and the what just happened moments. My goal with this video is to help you avoid the biggest mistakes I see VA buyers make every day and make sure you're getting the full benefit you've earned. I'm Joe Nelson with the Nelson Home Group. Let's get started. Mistake number one, and I see this all the time, is house hunting before talking to a VA experienced lender. Most VA buyers start with looking at homes online before even getting pre-approved. They'll jump on Zillow, plug in a price, and think, yeah, that's the payment that looks comfortable for me, we can swing that. But here's the problem. Those online calculators are almost never accurate. They might leave out or improperly calculate things like property taxes or homeowner's insurance. Some even assume that you're putting some money down when in reality a VA loan is usually 100% financing. And that means the payment you see online might look a whole lot better than the payment you'll actually have in real life. You need an experienced human, someone who actually understands VA loans to help calculate the real numbers. I've seen it more than once. A buyer falls in love with a home, shows it to their spouse, they're already planning furniture placement, and then we run the real numbers and the payment's a few $100 higher than what they had thought. And that's not a fun conversation to have at home. Getting with a VA knowledgeable lender first means we can look at real payment scenarios based on today's rates, accurate taxes, and full financing, so you know what you're comfortable with before you ever even tour a home. And if you're even thinking about using your VA loan here in the Kansas City area, shoot me a text or give me a call before you start house hunting. I'll help you run those real numbers so you're confident and ready when the right home hits the market. Bottom line, start with strategy, not Zillow. Mistake number two that I see a lot of VA buyers making in Kansas City is one that surprises a lot of VA buyers, and it's thinking that zero down means zero out of pocket. The VA loan is one of the best benefits that we've earned. You can buy a home with no down payment. That part's true. But that doesn't mean you can buy a home without spending any money. You'll still have earnest money, inspection fees, appraisal costs, and you'll always have closing costs. And for context, here in the Kansas City market, on a $300,000 to $400,000 home, you're typically looking at about $8,000 to $10,000 in closing costs. That includes things like title company fees, lender fees, prepaid homeowner's insurance, prepaid property taxes to set up your escrow account. It's all part of the process, and it catches a lot of first-time VA buyers off guard. Now, in some cases, the seller can pay some or all of those costs, but that usually depends on the situation. If a house has been sitting on the market for a few weeks, or there's not been a lot of interest from other buyers, we can sometimes negotiate for the seller to help cover closing costs. But if it's a fresh listing, multiple offers, or it's priced competitively, don't expect the seller to cover those expenses. From a negotiating standpoint, it's always better if you're prepared to handle your own closing costs. It makes your offer stronger and it gives you more control. Sometimes that money even comes from a gift, which is allowed under VA guidelines. Again, something your lender will help structure correctly. I always tell my clients, zero down is awesome, zero preparation, not so much. This is where having someone who understands both sides of the process really helps. I'm not just a realtor, I also originate loans, so I understand how the financing and the contract strategy work together. Now, when I'm acting as the lender, one of the experienced agents on our team at the Nelson Home Group will represent you on the real estate side. I've trained every one of them personally on how to write and negotiate VA contracts the right way, and I stay involved throughout every step of the process. So if you're planning to use your VA loan here in Kansas City, give me a call or shoot me a text before you start house hunting. Whether you're working with me directly or one of my team's agents, we will make sure you're fully prepared, financially and strategically, before you make your first offer. Mistake number three that I see VA homebuyers make in Kansas City is one that can really catch a lot of veterans off guard. It's not fully understanding the VA funding fee. A lot of people know VA loans don't have private mortgage insurance, and that's true. There's no PMI, but what the VA does have is something called the funding fee. It's a one-time cost that helps keep the VA loan program running. Instead of paying it monthly like PMI on a conventional loan, it's added to your loan balance and financed over the life of the loan. So for example, if you're buying a $300,000 home and using your VA loan again, a subsequent use with zero down, your funding fee would be about 3.3%. That's almost $10,000, meaning you actually owe around $310,000 on a $300,000 house the day you move in. Now, that percentage changes depending on whether it's your first or your subsequent uses and whether you put any money down or not. As you can see on the chart, the funding fee is lower the first time you use your VA benefit and drops even more if you put 5 or 10% down, but it never completely goes away. The only way to eliminate it altogether is by having a VA disability rating. That exemption can save you thousands right off the top and reduce your loan balance from day one. This is actually a lesson that I learned firsthand. I retired from the Air Force several years ago, and while I didn't start the disability process right away, I did start it several months before buying my next home. But that process takes time and it wasn't finalized before I closed. Since I was only planning to stay in the house a couple of years, I decided not to use my VA loan because I didn't want to pay the funding fee up front. So I went with a conventional loan instead. The trade-off, I'm now paying PMI every month and my interest rate is about 0.25% higher than what I would have gotten with a VA loan. In my case, short term, it still worked out cheaper than paying upfront for the funding fee because I won't be in the house that long. But here's the kicker. If my disability rating had been finalized before that purchase, the funding fee would have been waived completely. I would have avoided PMI and locked in a better rate. Honestly, I would have had my cake and eaten it too. So if you're anywhere near retirement or separation, don't wait to start that disability process like I did. It can make a big difference when you're ready to buy. And if you want to see how the funding fee or disability exemption could affect your numbers, give me a call or shoot me a text. I'll walk you through the math side by side so you can make the smartest move for your situation, whether that's VA, conventional, or something else entirely. Mistake number 4 that I see a lot of VA buyers make when buying a house in Kansas City is working with agents or lenders who don't really understand how VA loans work. I've seen it happen plenty of times. A veteran buyer gets excited about a house, the offer looks strong, but something goes sideways because the agent or lender didn't know the VA process inside and out. The VA loan has its own rules, timelines, and expectations, especially when it comes to the appraisal process. A VA appraiser isn't just checking value. They're also making sure the home meets the VA's minimum property requirements. That means things like peeling paint, exposed wiring, missing handrails, or a leaky roof can all trigger required repairs before closing. And around Kansas City, especially in pockets of older areas like Raytown, downtown Kansas City, or parts of the Northland, and even certain spots in Johnson County, these issues pop up all the time. If your lender or realtor isn't prepared for that, they can unintentionally set you up for delays, or worse, a deal that falls apart. I always tell my clients, the VA appraisal isn't scary if you're working with people who actually know what they're doing. Unfortunately, not everyone does. There are still a lot of listing agents out there who get nervous when they see the VA loan on an offer. They'll tell their sellers that VA buyers are difficult or that the appraisal process is a nightmare. That's why you need a realtor who not only understands VA loans, but can communicate confidently with a listing agent to help them understand that your offer is just as strong, if not stronger, than any other offer. When you work with me or one of our experienced agents here at the Nelson Home Group, that's exactly what we do. I coach my team through every VA contract we write, and because I'm also a lender, I know how to address the concerns that sometimes scare off other agents. If you're planning to use your VA loan here in Kansas City area, make sure you're surrounded by people who've actually closed those deals before. Whether I'm helping on the lending side or you're working with one of our trained agents, we'll make sure your offer stands out and gets accepted. All right, mistake number 5, and this one's about long-term planning, is not using your VA benefit strategically. A lot of veterans think the VA loan is a one-time deal. You use it once, buy your home, and that's it. That's not how it works. You can actually use your VA loan multiple times, and in certain cases, even have more than one VA loan at once. The VA benefit isn't just a home loan program, it's a long-term financial tool. But here's the catch. You have to make sure you're set up correctly from the start. One of the first steps your lender should take is pulling your Certificate of Eligibility, or COE. That's what verifies not only that you're eligible for a VA loan, but also that you have enough entitlement left to do what you want to do, especially if you've owned a home with your VA loan before. And this is critical. If that step gets missed or done too late, it can completely derail your purchase. I had a VA buyer a while back who learned this lesson the hard way. Everything was going smooth, great house, great offer, until about a week before closing. We found out he didn't actually have VA eligibility because he'd separated from the military 3 days too early. At that point, we had to scramble and switch his loan to FHA just to keep the deal alive. It still worked out, but he ended up with a higher rate and several $1,000s more in out-of-pocket expenses. He was understandably frustrated, and honestly, he shouldn't have had to be. Had his original lender pulled his COE early, we would have known about the issue weeks sooner and we could have planned around it easily. That's why strategy and experience matter so much. Whether it's confirming eligibility, understanding entitlement, or figuring out how to use your VA benefit a second or third time, the right lender and realtor team can help you make it work for your goals. For example, maybe you're PCSing to Whiteman Air Force Base or Fort Leavenworth, or maybe you're moving up from your first Kansas City home into something larger. With the right structure, you might even be able to keep your first home as a rental and buy the next one with no down payment. I always tell my clients, don't let someone tell you no just because they don't understand how your VA benefits work. Within the Nelson Home Group, we sit down with veterans every week to look at the full picture: entitlement, loan limits, long-term goals, not just the next home purchase. So if you're planning a move or thinking about using your VA loan again, reach out to me directly. We'll make sure your certificate of eligibility is squared away, your strategy makes sense, and your next home purchase helps you build wealth, not headaches. So there we have it. Those are the 5 biggest mistakes I see VA homebuyers make, especially right here in the Kansas City area. The VA loan is an incredible benefit, but like anything powerful, it works best when you understand how to use it. From getting pre-approved with the right lender, to budgeting beyond zero down, to understanding the funding fee and working with VA savvy professionals and using your benefits strategically, every step matters. And that's where I come in. I'm Joe Nelson, Air Force veteran, licensed realtor, and mortgage originator, as well as leader of the Nelson Home Group right here in Kansas City. My team and I specialize in helping veterans and active duty families make smarter real estate and mortgage decisions every single day. Whether you're buying your first home, you're upgrading, or you're relocating to or from the KC area, I'd love to help you plan it out and avoid the costly mistakes most VA buyers never see coming. Don't just use your VA loan, use it wisely. So before you start house hunting, call or text me directly at the number on the screen or find me online at nelsonhomegroupkc.com. I'll help you understand your options, compare loan programs side by side, and make sure your next move sets you up for long-term success. I'm Joe Nelson. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.